Hi, welcome back to the Liv and Lois show. This is episode 2. I can't believe we're already back for that, but it's like November. I think last time we did episode 1 in, wasn't it October? Like early October? We're going to try to do 2 or 3 recordings a month as much as we can. We have lives and we're busy. So we want to get some stuff out. We got some really good feedback from episode 1. So we're hoping that we can keep people moving. So we're going to do a recap quickly from episode 1.
Okay, yeah. Did you want to tie in anything that you said after you thought about it? Was there anything you wanted to go back and cover?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some things that I wanted you to kind of go over that we never got you to say.
Yes.
I would move your mic up a little bit. It's harder to hear you.
Oh, thanks,
but
pal.
anyways, I think we kind of got on the topic of South Dakota, and we never fully got the story of what happened with her. That was a little love thing that popped in after
heartbreak. Yes.
That was like right after I started dating. So I want to kind of hear this because you kind of popped off for a little while, and I was like, "What's going on with Lois?"
Right. Was that about July? I think.
I think
it was about July.
It was like the beginning of June, July. Beginning of July.
Track. It's all kind of blurry, but what had happened, I really like South Dakota. I'm going to try to tell a quick story, even though we talked for some time, but we were getting emotional, spending a lot of time on the phone together. At one point, we even FaceTimed for 7 hours. Mm-hmm. I think we had looked, and it was a time from midnight till 7 in the morning kind of thing, and I had to go because I had to go to work, kind of, break at that point. And so we did talk a lot. We really enjoyed each other's company, and got emotional and intimate. I think, talking to somebody for that long and just throughout the day and stuff like that. And so as we were going with all that, she kind of pulled her foot back at one point, just saying hey, I'm probably not ready to be so serious, because she had just gotten out of a relationship. And and didn't tell me. So I think a ground rule should be that people have to say how long they've been. I should have asked, but now I'm asking, what was your last relationship? Because I'm kind of not thinking people are just jumping right back online, and being I'm ready to date. But
that's happened to all of us.
All of us, yeah. And I've had it happen to me too a couple times. So it had been a year, because it was July to July, from my ex in Cleveland, the other heartbreaker. But so she had said she had just broken up a month or so ago with this person, that she was dating. And it wasn't the best experience. I think she was still a little traumatized from that ex. And so as we were growing and getting closer, then she was like, I think, I wanted to step back. So I agreed to it. I, was kind of... It took me a minute, but, just to be okay, you're pulling your foot back. Why are you doing that? And I think it's always good to analyze, what's a reason somebody pulls their foot back? Because we know a lot of people have different mental health issues or attachment issues and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of tracking that. And she had told me she's an avoidant personality and is working on it in therapy. And I'm like, okay, good. I would tend on anxious buzzwords. Yes. So I was I would, tend on anxious attached. If that's going to happen, you pull away, I'm going to, kind of chase you a little bit. I'm like the Pac-Man ghost,
Yeah.
So my default setting, I would say, is secure attached. But if anything's going awry, that's going to be where I, stumble into. And that's where she stumbles into. And so I bring this up because it kind of had a reason why things didn't work out. And so to not make it long, she ended up wanting to date other people at some point after we had talked and got really emotional with each other. And so, and spending a lot of time with somebody, I was giving a lot of my time and energy. And so I was like, okay, so I started to go online too. Okay, I'm going with the flow, doing all this. It was still okay. We were still going to keep talking with each other and hang out. And I went back and told South Dakota that. And I said, hey, unfortunately, I did meet, because she was asking me who I met. And I was like, I met somebody that, I'm emotionally enjoying talking to and that kind of stuff. And then South Dakota was like, well, that's too bad, because I was just trying to physically meet people and really just wanted to sow some oats.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So she was kind of doing whatever she wanted to do with dating and stuff like that. We were planning on seeing each other in August. So she'd already bought a plane ticket to come see me. This is South Dakota. Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening was, as she was kind of going on dates and stuff, I was getting kind of jealous, or distracted. I wasn't having fun in doing my life in Columbus. So I was like, you know what? I can't really be on this journey with you of like, because I was falling for her. You know, I wouldn't say I was in love or anything, but I was definitely starting to have those feelings.
Are you sure? Because we talked about this, that we were going to tie back in as the love is blind.
Right, right.
Like we spend all this time, you're saying.
Yep, I felt like
how
I was
many
in the pods.
hours on the phone?
I mean, it was a lot. We talked a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I talk about copper later, like we had spent 13 hours on the phone one day.
Did you? Yeah. I mean, we could have, if we had the time.
I feel like, I know not to stigmatize lesbians, but I think we do end up being deep conversations, long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time to be on the phone and talking so long. So I could see where feelings were starting to feel like attached and maybe feeling a little jealous when you're like
jealous that she was on a date, and I was out at a concert with a friend, and I had texted her and she didn't answer me, and then I was starting to be like, well, this doesn't feel good. And so when we got back to talking, she was like, I was on my date, so I didn't answer you. And it had been 2-3 hours or something, you know? And I was like, okay, I get it. You're trying to be respectful to your date, but that's just not going to work for me, because now I'm feeling, you know, I have feelings for you. I'm wondering what you're doing. And I'm starting to act out of my own character that I just didn't want to do. And so I said, while you're dating and you want to date around, go ahead. But I need to pull back emotionally just to protect myself. So I can't spend all this time with you. And because we were talking right up before her date, and then, you know, she wanted to talk after the date at night and that kind of stuff. And I was like, I just can't be on this ride with you. So you go do what you need to do. I'll see you when you come in like a week and a half or 2 weeks at the time. Yeah. And she's like, I don't know if I can just be your friend and come see you. And I was like, I don't know that I need you to just be my friend at this point, but I just need some space because I'm starting to get too attached. And I don't want to if you're not ready. She's like, okay. And so time had passed, and then I got in this weird, like, I felt like I really just couldn't contact her. And my friends are like, you really need to find out if she's coming into town or not, you know? And I just thought,
because she bought a whole ass ticket, right?
Yeah. I really just thought for sure she was going to come to town, you know? I just thought I was going to see her in this, like, week and a half, 2 weeks. And so I had written her a letter. I had wrote this poem for her. It was a really good poem, right? And so I was like, she needs to have this poem. So I sent it to her house, and said, I'll pick you up at the airport at this time, instead of like texting. And so after about a week or so, I still hadn't heard back from her. She wasn't reaching out either.
So did she like ice you, ghost you?
I didn't know what was going on. I thought we were just kind of taking space.
That's the thing these days. People just, yeah, but did you initiate saying space, or was this like her?
I had initiated space. Her answer was, I'm not going to reach out unless you do. Oh. And so I was like, well, you can. I'm not telling you.
So the door's left open if you do reach out.
Yeah, if you want to reach out, I'm not going to ignore you by any means. I'm just going to try to take my own space, get recalibrated, and be able to date you and date other people, right? Yeah. Whatever that looks like. And so she wasn't contacting me. I wasn't contacting her. And then I kind of got weird. Like, I was like, I really was just going to have this romance at the airport, you know, where I was like, we are going to meet at the airport.
Flowers. It's just going to be so romantic.
Yes, I had that all planned.
And it's going to be.
And I was like, you know, I was going to scoop her up and twirl her and the whole thing. So I really thought that was going to happen. So I wasn't going to contact her. So I was telling my friends this. They're like, dude, you've got to reach out. You can't just go to the airport. You're going to be circling that airport, not knowing if she came or not.
Yeah, not only that, you'd be devastated if she doesn't show up. You're going to be standing there like tears.
Tears,
like,
I know. I thought it was a locked in thing, right? Because how close we were, right? We're both close to saying I love you at some point, right?
Oh my.
Or love feelings. I'm just going to say love feelings. And so I reached out, and there was like a couple of days before her coming, and I was like, hey, did you get my card I had sent you to your house? And she's like, no. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why you didn't get it. I wrote this, and I was telling you I was going to pick you up at the airport. She's like, well, I'm not going to be there. And I was like, what? Like, surprise.
Yeah.
I was like, you're not going to be there? She said, no, I'm not going to be there. And I'm like, well, why not? She's like, well, you did me a favor by not talking to me. I'm like, oh, that's hurtful. And then she just said, basically, she was getting too consumed with me, and did a favor by pulling the rug out from her, basically, even though that wasn't my intention. I was really just trying to be like, hey, I need some space. Here's my adult way of doing it. Yeah. And I think I pushed the avoidant button in her. You know what I mean? That hurt, wounded kind of thing. And that's how she retreats and reacts to things. And so she was saying, you know, like, you're a great person, you know.
Do you think she felt rejected?
I think rejected. That would be better word to use. Yes. And so
which is definitely an avoidance trigger.
Right. Right. Which was a trigger. And so I still thought we were strong enough that we were just going to kind of talk through it and be like, you know, that wasn't my intention and stuff. And so she just wasn't having it and just wanted to say, like, she said she was getting consumed with me. I was like, well, I kind of was too. You know, we're spending a lot of time together. And when you wanted to see other people, I thought, let's just take some space. And that's why I did this like week and a half and sent you that card thinking, you know, hey, I'll pick you up at the airport. She's like, don't go to the airport. I will not be there. And I was like, dang, okay, I really thought for sure. And she just did the, you know, don't contact me so I can get to better footing with myself. It took me this long and you're throwing me off kind of thing after the week and a half, you know. So I guess she was really feeling it, you know. It was probably sad. I was too, you know, of like, oh, I'm not talking to this person I'm used to talking to all the time, right? It's just hard. It's like that habit of like checking your phone and they're not, you know, not texting.
Responding,
so I was doing that. I was just, you know, like, did she text? No. Okay. Did she text? And trying to move on and stuff just to separate. But anyway, so she said that, like, hopefully we can be friends one day. I care about you. You're a great person. Bye. So I was like, oh, okay. Last thing I had said was basically, you know, do you want to split the ticket? You know, I don't mind, you know, just for not coming or anything. And, you know, or do you want IOU? What do you want to do? And nothing. Never answered. So I was like, okay, that ended.
Right.
Time passed. I was licking my wounds. And at the same time, I will just tie in with Tasha that I was telling her how I feel about South Dakota, that I had feelings.
So you were leaning over telling this girl, like,
yes,
I met someone.
I met someone.
Crushed me.
Yeah, well, I didn't go into that much detail, but I did just wanted to keep her above board. What do you think about that with stuff like that? Do you think... my friends are like, you talk too much. Like you say too much or too honest. What do you think?
Well, you know, I think we've talked about this before,
yeah.
you know, because I'm an attachment theory person. And definitely I think that's probably some of that anxious behavior. You know, you didn't get any validation, reassurance, or consistency from that. And so I think that probably threw you for a loop because it definitely seemed
with South Dakota?
Yeah, I mean...
I'm saying, no, I'm even saying like before. So before I even knew she wasn't coming, I was telling Tasha, there's somebody coming that I care about. Because I didn't want to be misleading. I didn't want her to have more feelings than I was having. I was trying to be above board with both parties. Yeah. I even told South Dakota, who got upset, like, hey, you weren't really supposed to have an emotional connection with somebody.
But I think that's the whole I talk too much thing. I think you're sharing, like having a tendency to overshare. And I think when you're meeting this new person, you're like word vomiting to them, telling them all this. Yeah. And they're probably obviously going to empathize with you, but you still haven't really got over this piece. So that makes sense why you need validation for someone to say, yeah, that was shitty. Like, because it makes you feel better, obviously, because you were hurting. And so plus to let her know where you're at, because we're dating and talking to so many people. Right. It is hard. It is hard, yeah. I never say that dating's not hard at any point, but I think dating in your 40s and 50s, and then with all the extra and being therapists and stuff, definitely is a loop. And the online escape. So you met her online and she kind of just, and let's just talk about the distance. How are you going to make that work?
You know, I felt like I was old enough now that I don't need somebody who's there, you know, constantly. I can do phone calls. We can do FaceTime when it works out, you know, that kind of stuff. And... you know, eventually long-term plan, you know, to, you know, 5 years from now kind of be together or 4 or 5, whatever, you know, the math would be, because she had a little kid and it was like, you know, when she gets to this age, I'll be able to kind of move and do those sorts of things. And so
you would have moved to South Dakota?
I don't know that I went that. I don't know that I went that far ahead. You know, like I enjoy Columbus, but I don't mind the change if the time is right. You know, I am slowing down.
And you hadn't even had sex with her yet, or even kissed. Imagine how bad it would have been.
I know. I'm so glad we didn't. Yeah, I'm so glad we didn't. Well, and the long story short is like they both kind of like broke up with me. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it was like bang.
So then, Tasha was just like, hey.
You're not over her.
Yeah, I'm going to focus on myself. And I was like, okay, I can't even, you know, disagree. And she was a great person, really had a lot of good qualities and stuff that I still admire and, you know, and think about with her. And
yeah, but wasn't there some shitty shit she did where she tried to like, listen, that's why we're going to tie into Copper's story today, where she kind of then told you like, don't contact her and became kind of.
So that was South Dakota. So Tasha just ended with
politeness.
Politeness. Follow up with this lead, see where life takes you. And I was like, yep, okay. I went to tell South Dakota that, like, hey, you know, you're really the person I still care about, and you know, you're in my heart and stuff. And it really didn't matter. So when she didn't get my letter and said, you know, hey, let's just try to, you know, I didn't really know what we were doing. I don't know why it was so hot and heavy then to nothing, right? You know what I mean? So I let time pass. It had been 2-3 weeks or something, and I had that poem written to her. So I had done this. I don't know if you do this, but I get real weird about if I have something for somebody, I feel like they still need to have it if I plan to give it to them, right? You know what I mean? Like it's marked and the universe has it. And so I had this, so I wrote that poem and I put it in an envelope with her address with a stamp. And I was like, telling my best friend, Katie, I'm like, hey, if I'm going to pass away, mail this to her, right? You know, if I die, make sure she gets this poem because, you know, it's meant for her, right? So
it's like the movie I Love You with Russell Crowe, that he leaves those little Post-it notes all over after he dies and stuff.
I
So
don't
cute.
know, but that is tender. But it's also hard too because then you're getting those reminders maybe when you're not ready for
that
them.
might make someone like, ouch.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. So basically I was like, well, I will just. I'll just send this. Why am I, waiting, And so I sent it to her business. So I was trying to think like, okay, maybe she doesn't want to get private mail or something, So I'll send it there. And she had wanted me to send her flowers there before because a date sent her flowers there. And she was telling me about it when she said they sent these flowers and I was hoping they were from you and they weren't. And I was like, well, no, I can't send the flowers. I can't follow up with a double flower, What can I do? So in this, I sent this poem to there and I said, it's not flowers, but hopefully, this still counts kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we had talked about in November seeing each other. And so I said, if you're still interested, I'd like to go. If not, you just let me know. I would be open to that in any regard. And that was it. So, and then time passed, about 9 days passed. And why this is important, because the mail to get to Columbus to South Dakota takes about 4 days, So about 9 days later, I get this text from her. And this shook me. So she just was so mad at me for sending that. She was really like, hey, I told you not to contact me. Why would you do that? It's self-serving.
Wow.
And it was
That's pretty brutal.
It was so brutal, and it was all in bold too, like capitalizing, yelling at
so
me.
she's like telling you, like I said, don't freaking contact me.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, I didn't think we were
Had she ever spoken to you that way before?
Never. And so I was so like, oh, I'm shook at this point. So I had to call my best friend and be like, yeah, I just got this thing. And I'm so upset. Because at the bottom of it, then it said, so this person, I'm being vulnerable here, she says, if you contact me again, I'll have to call the police.
Ouch.
So I just like,
what the? Is she trying to make you sound like you're stalking her or something?
It got really crazy. I mean,
and you weren't.
God, no. I was like, that's really funny. I'm like, because, so.
Right. Yeah.
I was
but
like,
that's
please,
crazy.
Yeah, call. Because,
tell the therapist that she's stalking you.
Well, now I'm like, you just seem crazy. So now I really got to understand her better.
I think it sounds like a power thing, right? Like
it might have been. To me, I was like, what would they see? Like, us talking, not talking,
right.
And then, oh God, you got a card.
Right.
That was fun and friendly.
When you told me this before, and I'm glad that you finally got the recap on that.
That was the cap.
I was like,
I haven't talked to her since.
Yeah, that same shit happened to me with Copper.
Yeah.
Because at the very end of our messy relationship, I did have that moment of like where I finally decided to set a boundary and put it to bed and say, you know what, I'm over all this craziness. I can't keep doing this back and forth to myself.
Yeah.
And I had said, I've had enough. I'm done. But of course, you have your feelings. And like later on, I was like, and I messaged her, and then she slowly but surely reminded me of that, right? Which, okay, hold me accountable, fine.
For breaking up with her?
Yeah,
okay,
right?
Yeah.
But then like a day or two later, she was still friends with me on Facebook. And I still feel like that's playing games, like, because you can watch me and see what I'm doing. But like, I know I couldn't really see what she was doing on her Facebook. And then I messaged her and she came back with bold as well. Like this big, bold, like, Olivia, I need space. This is too much. And I was just like, why are you sending that to me? Are you doing that so you can show your new girlfriend, like, look, I'm telling this bitch to stop talking to me. And she just won't stop.
I wondered the same thing, right? Yeah.
That's not how this went down at all.
Same boat, I know.
Now you're trying to like make me look crazy, I'm begging you back.
That's how I felt.
I was like, really what it was is you were avoiding me the whole time. And I finally decided to stop this shenanigans. And like, but I regretted it because I still cared about you. And I wanted to know, like, why was this not like circumventing into a relationship or whatever?
Yeah.
Even though she had told me like I was the one, we were going to spend those 4 seasons together and all that. And like, I don't know, it was like probably the craziest, like 5 month spend of a relationship, online dating, that I'm just like, that's why we talked about narcissism and bringing out the book to say like, what was this? Was the thing that you experienced someone that was potentially had some traits or, because why would someone come back with that kind of defensive, lining out shit in capital letters, making us look psychotic?
Right. I thought, like, I had remembered you saying that, and I was like, I wonder if she's like has a new girlfriend and she's showing her this or
she
something.
Had to been.
Yeah, had to, right? Of being
and now I do know that in this case that she had moved on.
Yeah.
Like clearly, the interesting story learning and meeting you was like a month or two after you and I started talking, you had told me information that you ran into someone that knew this person that I was talking to. And I'm like, how the hell small world is this?
Yeah.
And so she was dating 3 of us at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sorry that happened. And I don't know, I don't know if she was dating other people. I mean, I knew she was dating or trying to, going on dates and stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah, because you guys hadn't elicited a relationship where we were supposed to be dating.
Yeah, like exclusive. Yeah, we weren't exclusive.
And we'd been having sex, so it wasn't like a, just getting to know you phase.
I do think, that was probably for the benefit of somebody else to be like, I tried to tell her she's just, crazy stalk on me or whatever. And, and the same thing, it's like the crime didn't fit the punishment or whatever, where I was just like, I really, like, you could have thrown the card away,
Yeah.
Like, you didn't even need to read it.
You didn't have to make it so extreme.
Yeah, you didn't even need to read it, honestly, or wait days to then yell at me about it, and then say, don't contact you. And I'm just like, okay, I wasn't gonna, I kind of had forgotten about it. Like, okay, she probably got it by now. You start thinking, doing the math. And I was like, oh, she didn't respond. Yeah. That's okay. I can move on, which I have learned through all of this too. It's like, like when you go through something kind of upsetting with your ex, right? So my heartbreak was in last July with my Cleveland, girlfriend, and thinking we were going to settle down and just be together forever. And, and she cheated, and we talked about the kiss, and the kiss is the cheating. And so I haven't talked to her since then. And I've put her in that like avoidant category as well. And I think, and rejection is a huge thing because I don't think like that about Steph so much. Do you know? Like, I didn't even think I was like rejecting South Dakota with that. I was just taking the time out, trying to regroup, and still liked her, cared about her, would have responded, done all the things.
And you have a right to pull back and kind of assess things.
And seeing like where did I want to go with this, and be true to myself along the way. And unfortunately, I still wanted to be with her until the snappy response, which just showed me that her rejection button got pushed. It was like, you rejected me, even though that wasn't my, goal. Sure. And she reacted that way, like a vulture, like a tiger coming out to get me, like, no, I'm going to hurt you because you hurt me, know, and
absolutely.
And change all this. And with Cleveland, the same thing kind of happened. I think it was you I had talked to, because I said, so I've had her, like, some of her belongings in my garage since then, because we, she had lived with me part-time. She was still living in Cleveland and staying with me in our house and stuff. And so I did do the math. It was 6 months that it took that we ended up moving in together. So if you want to call that, I don't know what the U-Haul rules are, if that counts.
That's a whole nother thing.
So that it was 6 months because but we were looking for a house.
I'm going to write down U-Haul here too, because we got to get back to that. Love is blind and U-Haul.
Yes, in backpack still. So the
backpack is definitely a conversation.
6 months she had come in. So I still had some of her furniture. I had just reached back out saying like, hey, do you want to meet up? I'd like to get your stuff back to you. Do you want to meet first and then do your stuff, or all at once? What do you think? And when I'm saying we're communicating, it's just been through email at this point. And so she just got back to me being like, nope, I don't want to meet with you. And that's that. So now I'm like, great, thanks. Now I get to deal with your stuff, and like some stuff was from her mom who passed away. So I'm still just like, what do I do with this?
Why don't you just burn that shit? Why don't you just have like
How are you going to burn like a dresser?
No, but like I'm thinking like a way to like
I will metaphorically burn it.
In therapy, I'll say, a cathartic thing to do is like write a letter, set the letter on fire, let it go.
That's always
right?
good. Yes, I love.
Or
I can
if
do that.
You do have belongings,
I got like furniture.
Have a little seance, get it out there, burn the shit, say what you need to say, and be done. I get you can't like be dragging furniture out
can't
or
burn
whatever.
a couch,
But like, what do you do in that period? Do you keep it? Like, I feel like those are reminders.
I don't really attach things like that. My friends have been saying that. I don't really attach it. To me, it is just stuff. And it's like a to-do list. Like you just gave me a chore to do. Like I have your chore to do and I'm busy enough and I don't want your chore.
Oh.
So most of my friends like sell it on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
I'm not that kind of person. I don't like to. I know.
I would have made some money. It's sort of like engagement rings. What do you do with them? Sell them?
I don't like to mess with people like that. Even like on Marketplace, like it's just not my thing. I'm not taking a picture and sending it and selling it or whatever. I don't even go usually purchase things that way. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not one of those. My partners have been. She was, you know, and so then they're like, have a yard sale, just take it out, put it on the yard, you know, and sell that. I don't really want to do that either. So I think I'll probably just donate it to like the furniture bank was what I'll do come spring. But you had said something important about rejection about that she would have to, maybe she's letting it all go because some of this childhood stuff is there. So
yeah, which I want to segue into attachment on that.
Yeah, because this will segue, because I was like, I can even drive these items here to your house. I'll even do that if you didn't. And
that's kind of too much.
Well, my friends were like, what are you doing? You're too nice. You
I
know?
wouldn't be doing that. I'd be like, listen, you got X, Y, and Z. I recently had a patient dealing with that, and she was wanting to like keep on, even like was talking about sex toys and stuff. I'm like, just throw this shit away. And they're like, oh, these are expensive. I'm like, no, that's kind of just, I just feel like it's keeping the door open. And you either give them like a boundary at a timeline, you get this stuff and get out, or like, because it's too much.
I think that like, as I said, if I don't hear from you, I'm just, you know, then it's done. I'm done. So I gotta deal with it, sell it, it's gone, that kind of stuff. I'll, like I said, donate it. But I do, you know, so if we're talking about like sex toys though, here's the thing. Whole
other topic.
Because I've laughed about this, but you would tell her to get rid of the sex toys. But why would she when men don't get rid of their package, we'll say, right?
Okay, so here's the thing about the sex toys, and I don't know. We can maybe, I can't wait till we can phone people in or have people participate in this to ask their thoughts on this. Because with same-sex relationships, we do tend to, not that heterosexuals don't use sex toys. I'm sure women use them or whatever, but in lesbian land, like, I don't want to use someone else's part that was used on somebody else. So I keep my own. I have my own part. Like, if I do have a partner that we use toys with or whatever, and vice versa. But I think I've even had friends that they use condoms, which is interesting. Some of my lesbian friends, and I'm like, why do you guys? They're like, well, because and I was like, because you don't want to buy new ones. And like, so they use condoms
well, you
too.
can put them in the dishwasher.
Yeah, and I'm like, there's lube toy cleaner, and there's all this stuff that you can use to like clean your toys. So I don't know. Just to me, maybe I do attach to certain things, like emotionally, where you said you don't attach
like
certain things. So for me, like sex things, like I don't know, intimacy, I guess maybe. I don't know how much that's like too much info for the lesbian combo, but for someone to strap you, which is what the terms we use for women on women, I don't know. I think it's a whole different intimacy thing. I just want it to be new. It is fun to go shop with your partner too, go to Hustler or whatever, pick out the things that you guys are going to use to kind of be in your relationship, and then I just throw it away. But you don't get rid of them?
I haven't. I mean, my memory, like, I think I've like lost some in like the separations and stuff, you know, like that you came with, you could take it back with. Like, I don't know.
I even had my ex, and we'll call her, I can't remember my code word for her because it's a good one, but we'll call her Eastern. But she like took my, because I guess there's a difference between dildos, obviously, and vibrators, right? Yeah. So the girls that strap with the backpack. So we can segue into this. So the backpack thing that I learned with a lot of women I date, because I date more masculine women, they all have these backpacks. And I'm like, what is with this backpack thing, right? So you talk about used sex toys, but they spend a lot of time in their backpacks, like stocking them up, and they have all their lubes.
So would you expect them to get rid of it? You know what I mean?
Well, no, but I did have a girl that came with a new bag, and she had new ones. It wasn't even open. She like had an array, and I was like, God, looky. Like, but then I started looking like, do other girls do this? Because when I see them coming over and it's like a date and I see a backpack, I'm like, oh, they think they're getting like a booty call tonight. That's not happening.
Would be that presumptuous?
But they do. Like, they bring the backpack, and when literally I showed you the TikToks, I'm like, look at this TikTok about backpacks and lesbians with the backpack. And it's like certain masculine women. But anyways, she took when we broke up, because it got real emotional and personal, she took the strap toys and took them down to the garage and took bleach and poured bleach all over them. I was like, good golly, I guess I'm not going to use those again, right? But I was like, why? And she's like, because I don't want anybody else using the stuff that I was like, oh, okay, that I see.
Yeah.
But she didn't per se carry a backpack, but like when we traveled, that was a whole other thing too that you find with backpackers.
Yeah.
They bring their backpack and talk about going through customs with masked lesbians, because it's happened like 3 different masked lesbians I've been with traveling. And I swear to God, I think customs like to do this shit, or like TSA.
Yeah.
They always pull their bag aside, and you can watch it. You can see the big strap on.
Yeah.
Under the video, right? Yeah. And they're like examining it. I'm like, they are sitting there and they're calling everyone over as if they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And when Eastern went back home from one of her trips, because she was coming back and forth to see me, she's like, you won't believe I got stopped by TSA, and I know this lady was a lesbian. And she like pulled me aside, and she was just looking up at me and looking down, and I'm like, why do they do that?
I know.
Anyways, but the backpackers, they get the heat of it. So I want to know, like, maybe we can do a poll. Do people get new sex toys in between new relationships?
I'm curious about
or
that.
when you're dating, or like other women that carry the backpack thing, kind of like
people probably, well, I don't know about like with these backpackers then, but I'm not always pulling those things out. You know what I mean?
No,
like I've
and-
just been on dates and
No,
messed
it's not
around.
like they pull them out. So the
Yeah.
thing with the backpack is if they're coming to stay the night or they're coming over. Okay, I think it may be segues. So I think I tried to do like the first night we're having sex thing, as we all try to do.
Yeah.
Right. But when you talk 13 hours on the phone, I know with everyone I've talked to, at least we talked 2 or 3 weeks before we actually met and dated or even got intimate. So you try to do that. We're not having sex on the first date thing. Right?
Yes.
And I did that finally in this last one. So, but if you see them come with the backpack, I know now what that means.
Yeah, I did not
At some
know that.
point, they
Yeah.
think they're strapping me, and I'm like, hey, I'm not a strapper on the first date. Like,
Right.
We might do other things, but that's like a 3rd or 4th date, maybe kind of thing.
Yeah, you're
I don't know.
boundaries. Yeah.
Because that's typically what would be heterosexual sex for women, is that whole point of that.
Well,
But
we could argue that because there's other things you can do.
oh, absolutely. That's what I mean, like oral and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But or even using vibrators, whatever you do. But the the strap on is typically like a signifier of like the real deal. With the masculine one. See, so you don't date masked women, so this is different for you.
Yeah.
But being a femme, I date more. And mask doesn't mean that they look like boys, but just they're more masculine presenting. They presume the role of the top. And to explain that, tops and bottoms, there's the one that is usually doing more of the top work. Doesn't mean that we don't switch, because I'm a switch lesbian, so which means we can do either role, but that doesn't make me masculine.
Right.
I don't carry a backpack, but I do.
I don't either.
I do carry my own toys.
Well, now I don't do that because I'm not. They don't leave my house. You know, I don't know. Yeah,
you don't travel with them. Like, come over with the backpack tonight. But it is a whole funny story to watch on TikTok, because I learned too much about this. And so if you see them come in the backpack, you're going to presume they're going to try to get booty or something that night.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's crazy to think that people spend that much time and like effort in these bags. And there are some women that really do like invest in these backpacks. Like,
yeah, I just wouldn't want to presume that much, with somebody. But I mean, I guess you could just take your backpack and leave. It's not, it's 100%.
not like, you can't just
I'm
like, your backpack can stay in the truck. Why'd I go get my backpack?
Right. Yeah. I could grab
So
it.
let's move into attachment then.
Okay, sure.
I wanna, well, I guess maybe we can go back to the Love is Blind. I'm going to check off backpack. We got that. Let's go to the U-Haul segment.
I will say this though too. So since we're talking about femmes and mask, right? So I'm switched to, right? And so that's.
So do you think you're more femme, would you say, or are you tomboy?
Just both. Oh, in general, just tomboy. Yeah, just a tomboy.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I grew up, and
Have you ever had a touch me not?
What's that?
Yeah, you've never heard that touch me not?
Is it a doll?
No, I have dated a couple of touch me nots.
Oh, I got you.
They don't want you to touch them. So that's why I'm like learning all these terms are important to know.
Like,
as being a therapist, first of all, when I'm in therapy and I hear all these new words and things, I'm like, what? We deal with that now? But then dating too, on top of this, we do hear these things. And I'm like, what is a touch me not? They don't want to be pleased.
Back in my day, they used to call that a stone butch.
Oh.
Stone butch lesbian or something. What stone butch? I meant like you don't touch. Like like you just said.
But some of them will let you. They just won't let you top them.
Yeah,
they have so many rules.
There's a lot of rules,
right?
yeah.
And I'm just like, that's so much to keep up with.
So much to keep up with.
Heteros don't have to deal with.
Maybe they do. Like if you have trauma history, I think that's going to come into play.
Like you're not allowed to do this. You can't pull my hair. You can't do this. Don't choke me.
Yep.
I mean, that's a whole different another segment.
Yes.
But
I did want to say this though. So I did think it was interesting because South Dakota's femme, and when I was talking to her, she was more top, and I hadn't experienced that yet. And she liked to
she was a top?
Yes.
Really?
Isn't that weird, right? She like wanted to be like more
she
in
wanted
control.
the dominant. The control.
Yeah.
Hey, that had been a turn on. Like, okay, let's try it on.
I'm open to it. Yeah. I was just like, but I'm not because I could do both roles,
sure.
you know, so I was like, yeah, I'm down. But I never think about femmes as being tops, though.
No, most
like
don't.
tops
most
wanting to wear a strap on.
The pillow princess or the bottom.
Yeah, I was so surprised. But I was like, I hit the jackpot. I am down, you know.
I definitely give props to the tops, though, because, man, it's work. Like, when I'm chubbier, I'm like, this is a lot of work to be up.
You know, and she was telling me, you know, just we can disclose because we don't know who we're talking about, but that she would let me do that to her, top her, because she trusted me. But normally
You've got the strap, I think most people know, like, that's what the top is.
Top is, yes.
Top is the strap game.
Is the strap game.
Everyone's like, what is strap game? I'm like,
strap game.
It's the top.
It's a new board game. It's coming out. So she was like, you can use the strap on me. Like, it was like a big deal. Like, it was like something we had to talk about.
It is.
Because
like
she didn't like that.
The real part of having sex for us lesbians.
Well, she just didn't.
When you let
She just never lets people do that, I guess.
Yeah, you don't, typically.
I'm thinking it's a trust issue, right? So, you know.
And you just don't let everyone do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got to whoever your person is or whatever, you know. And I was like, well, I'm honored. Okay, thank you. You know, thinking we are making these steps that we're going to be in it to win it together. But then I got the mean text anyway. So if we're saying that, though, I thought that was different that I started to meet femmes that are doing that too. Which wasn't my experience. But I met a couple now where I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. A lot of femmes, I think, are just... Especially, I think, with TikTok, and we can always segue back into, you know, social media and how it plays such a role into so many things. True. It definitely highlights a lot of things that other women are doing, and that it's okay to talk about that stuff and that they're doing it. Because I think a lot of people presume, you know, heterosexual roles compared to, like, I always hear, like, well, who's the man in the relationship?
Yeah, good point.
I'm like, what? My aunt said that to me, like, I'm gay, I'm not dating a man. Well, who does the whatever? And I'm like, no, we don't have those gender roles. Right. But I mean, there are, obviously. But yeah, I would think most presume that she plays the man role and does all the topping and that, I'm just a pillow princess.
Yeah. I mean, I think people just like to put things in categories because it's where it's comfortable.
Well, in
general,
sense,
you know,
right?
A femme does this, or they cook and clean, and the male or butchier one likes to, you know, I don't know, take the trash out kind of thing, or fix the plumbing. I don't know. That for me, either my ex. You know, we kind of both did both roles. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
And it works. I mean, you divide and conquer. I think with me and my partner, since I'm now not necessarily dating, but I'm in a very exclusive relationship now, I think that you just learn to figure out your strengths and do that. Like, she doesn't cut grass, and that's the second lesbian I've dated. I'm like, fuck, I've got to be like the grass cutter, which I actually like cutting grass, as you know. Yeah. I'm always like, I'm out in the yard cutting grass and weed whacking and stuff. Most would presume I would never do that stuff. But I do a lot of those masculine roles, and I don't even know why they're called masculine, because they're really not. Grass needs cut, right? But she's allergic to grass, and so is Copper. I'm like, what the hell? 2 in a row. I got to be the one out there cutting the grass in the summer. But she's like, I'll weed whack for you. And I was like, okay. So I think, we just naturally take on whatever role. So let's go to the U-Haul now that we can cross off backpack. We finally got to talk about that and sex toys. So I looked it up, and I think it was a term that was coined, and I think like long time ago, about it was deemed originally with lesbians of the fast love. So we talked about the love is blind combination into this, like, when does the U-Haul happen and why is it like stigmatized to lesbians? So what do you think? How quick does the U-Haul happen?
Well, I got more data on Love is Blind because now I'm watching
Okay,
it again with
good.
my bestie. So we're
Yeah.
watching this new one for, the U.S. It was 10 days that they were together and saying they love each other and then
In the
meeting in the
pods?
pods.
So do you know how much that time calculated it is that they're spending that time together in these pods?
I don't, because, they are dating other people, but then when they want to get serious with the person,
Okay.
then they could probably just
So
see
in
that
episode
person.
1, if you catch back, I read some research and
Yeah.
found several. It's 40 days, they say, total. But it doesn't ever say like the hours. So I would
I
think
gotcha.
if you're spending
Yeah.
even just 2 weeks nonstop, I know I know multiple times we spent 10, 13 hours on the phone, like a whole Saturday on the phone.
Yeah.
Just talking about everything. If you're spending that kind of intimate conversations and time with someone, I think you could relatively fall in love that quick.
I agree, because now I've come to think about it like this. I think love is easier to for some people, easier to fall in love. Some people hold that word to mean, something, I don't say it, I wait, and that kind of stuff. I don't feel like that about love. I think it's kind of easy to love, for me personally. And but what I think it is with relationships is you can have love, but it doesn't mean you're going to stay together, right? Because even with my Cleveland ex, still love her now, but love doesn't keep you together, I guess, is where I'm coming from.
Okay.
And I think, and we'll find this out in Love is Blind, we're halfway through and the wheels are already falling off, right? Of like, okay, they're out of the pods now, we're they did their like getaway,
Yeah.
right? They always go
Yeah.
on a vacation.
Yeah.
Now they come back to the real world, they get their phones. And
So they kind of U-Haul this then,
they
true,
do
essentially,
U-Haul it, yeah,
because
then they move in together.
but this is choice because this is a show. They're signing up for
Right,
this.
yeah.
Do you think people would naturally do this in real life though? Because I think we do.
I do.
We spend endless hours on the phone,
Right, yeah.
going on dates,
Yeah.
doing all the investing in a
Well-
relationship, which is why I say relationships are transactional because
yeah.
we are.
Yeah, quid pro quo.
Yeah,
I'm giving, you're giving.
Yeah, you're soliciting something that
Yeah.
you want,
Yeah.
and it should be kind of like a business deal segue, but it always can
But
end
I also
messy.
think too, it becomes practicalities too. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because you're like, well, I don't want to spend my money on this house and that house, and then you
Yeah,
merge houses,
absolutely.
right? Because you save income, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
so you-
not going to repeat that mistake, though. I will say on the record, I'm going to wait that
but
out.
not getting a house and sharing.
Just keeping my own space. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. I
Yeah.
want to date
We'll
somebody who
touch
has
on
their
that
own
later,
space. Yeah,
yeah.
so we'll circle back.
It is nice to have that. I do agree that we
Yeah.
should have our own space as you're kind of dating. But then at some point again, that U-Haul happens. I know with my first wife,
Yeah.
it was like 5 months before we moved in together
Yeah.
to her place. And eventually, once we got serious enough, we sold that
Yeah.
to get our own place together.
Right, makes sense.
But I think our U-Haul, that was 5 months. And what would you think is the average that women are like?
I think it might be. Well, I think it depends on your age, right? You know.
So let's define it again. So they say the U-Haul term is that the second date never ends.
Okay.
It's like she comes over with the backpack
never
and you have
leaves,
sex
yeah.
all night and it just doesn't stop. Now, I will
Okay.
say with my last relationship with Eastern, it was like that. It was like we
Okay.
had sex and then she didn't want me to leave. So that was kind of like a U-Haul, I would presume, because we pretty much segued into a whole ass relationship.
Right.
So it never stopped. It's like the first date never stops or the second date never stops. So how often does that happen for you? What would you say is the timeline?
I mean, I really don't have the great data on it now. I've just been going on dates, so it's like one
Have
date,
you
2
ever
date.
U-Hauled anyone? What about the...
That was Cleveland.
Okay, I was going to
Yeah.
say, what was you in Cleveland? Was it like...
That was 6 months because I was looking for a house.
But did the first date never stop or the second date? Was it like once you guys had sex and it was like you
we
were
had
staying...
time apart.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
That was kind of healthy.
Oh yeah, she went back to Cleveland. I was in Columbus, so she worked there. I worked here. So we just kept.
I wonder if we could
talking,
look at
you know.
the U-Haul aspect as attachment stuff.
I think there's something to that
That
for sure. Yeah.
So we talk about attachment issues and
agree.
how this attachment stuff works.
Yes.
Like healthy, secure people
Yeah.
are supposed to have independency,
Right.
their
Autonomy.
own autonomy,
Yeah.
safety, and stuff like that.
Right.
Not to say that people that aren't secured wouldn't make that
Sure.
decision for,
Right.
like in my situation, long distance relationship becomes very taxing. And I was just like, at some point, we're going to have to figure out like,
Yeah.
not going back and forth as often
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
I don't know what this looks like, but, and then sometimes it's financial for people too.
Yeah, I
if they're
agree.
like, I can't do this alone, like financially or whatever, it's a whole different thing. So I don't know that we can just accumulate it all to attachment, but, so you've never been U-Hauled per se. You did the...
Yeah, I was married for 17 years. And so then Cleveland was my next, official person I fell in love with and cared about. And so after, we were doing our lives. Life was good.
Yeah.
And we chose to move in together. And it was really just part-time because she still was going back and forth to Cleveland. And I think that kind of set the stage for me going forward of like, well, I probably could date somebody in South Dakota or wherever, because I did this on off half the week anyway for most of the 3.5 years. She was going back and forth. And so it still felt okay to me because I don't mind going places alone. I like going with a partner, but I also don't mind going alone.
So we can kind of, I guess, conclude then that U-Haul is not stereotype just to lesbians.
I don't think it is. I think
so. We're going to debunk it. Stop saying it's to lesbians that we U-Haul it.
We want that noted for the record.
As knowing that love is blind, that people do it. And I bet you if we interviewed more men and women together heterosexually, like how long did it take before you moved in together?
Yeah. Well,
data would be.
Does this bring up situationships though? Because that's been a new term that I keep hearing.
Situationships.
Yeah.
Is that like friends with benefits kind of stuff?
That's how I've perceived it. It might mean other nuanced things. But I think like with, I would like to, I think for me, age is what changed everything for me. In my 20s, I would have done anything, like who cares? You move in, you move out. No, nobody cares. So I think it would depend on the ages, even for heteros, lesbians, whatever, I think maybe, you have these experiences. So you're like, well, I really don't feel like moving my stuff again. Do you know what I mean? Like, aren't you just tired of packing and moving physically in life at this point? I know that's for me. So that just makes me put the brakes on anything. Like, no, I really just don't want to pack a box. I don't want to, have to transfer my Netflix account to your name, like I just want to keep it all mine. So I think, maybe with just age becomes that, like you've had the experiences. So I think we pulled, I don't know if heteros younger, are they moving in together? I don't know,
I would think eventually when we can get in some tied in data that we would be able to say that it's very similar.
Well, and the Love is Blind people, they are all in their 20s and they are doing it. Yeah, you're right.
Not all of them.
No,
some
but
of them are in their late 20s.
It seems like 25. I think 35 might be the oldest right now on the
They typically don't do a lot of older people on there, but
I would like to tell Netflix they should do that. But
even on Queer Ultimatum, they move. The Queer Ultimatum, let's just say, they switch partners. Right. One of their partners are putting them in an ultimatum, and then they have to try marriage out or relationship or whatever for what is it, a week or two?
I think 2 weeks.
That they're switching partners, and then they got to decide whether they go back to their. So they're kind of like you on. It's like Married on First Date, or what is it? Married at First Sight.
Married at First Sight.
A whole new
I watched that.
show. I haven't started that one yet, but I guess there's a lot of people you and all in it. So
Married at First Sight. All these people. If we get any kind of win, please have a gay Married at First Sight. Please have an over 40. Love is Blind. Queers. Let's do a gay guy Queer Ultimatum. That would be great. These are all good ideas, right? We need to get these producers on there.
I think so. So I'm going to take way back out of Love is Blind and you all and say we got that. But do you think love is an action then or a feeling? Because you were saying like we can love all these people and then we're just,
I think it's a choice.
Oh.
Like you're choosing to love people. You're choosing who you give your time to, your intimacy to.
So then how do you know if you're really in love with someone? Because it was funny when I met Copper, one of the biggest things that we had a conversation was about that she never felt like she was in love with someone. Right. But she knew she was in love with me, right?
You're the best.
Right. I just must have something I don't know. Because I hear it all the time. I don't understand it. But I was like, so you never felt in love with your wife? She had been with a wife for like 17 years. And I'm like, how the fuck are you with someone that long and you were never in love with her? Right. Like, is in love like in love when we meet? It means now in this moment we are in love because everything about you is just the shit, right? Because we're in the limerence honeymoon stage. Everything's great. Right. So I think we go through those transitional stages where maybe love is not as intense because I think love is an action. To me, love is when my partner is digging out like an ingrown toenail.
Oh, yeah.
Or like...
And gross, but yeah.
Yeah, like pimping a shitty pop or like popping a pimple or some like gross stuff. Like people that you traditionally wouldn't ask that kind of stuff is not going to do that for you. But someone that loves you, I think will do some weird stuff for you. And it's obviously deeper than that, but just, I think in general, it's action based. So
I like that. Yeah.
Is that not in love?
I think you're right. I've questioned that because I'm like, I did the same shit. I think when you just have distance, it changes it because, I was married for 17 years. Yes, I was in love with her. I wanted to be with her.
So when you hear that, that's not a red flag for someone to say they weren't in love with someone?
It would probably red flag me because I'd be like, why'd you stay so long?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I think the definition, I think we might have that movie scene in our head
Sure.
that in love means.
So you think people think of like Notebook?
Yeah, like it's this intense passion.
The
constantly.
romanticized version of it.
Yeah. When true in love and intimacy to me is the gross things you just talked about.
Yeah,
like that.
That's someone that's going to be there when you have cancer, when you have like an illness, holding your hair back, when you've drank too much and you're puking.
Yeah, absolutely. That's love.
That's love. I mean, those people are doing that because they care about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so then we know love is an action and it is a feeling, but you can fall in and out.
Yeah, because you can't. So that's where I'm like, it seems like it's a choice then. You are like, I'm trying to actively shut down my feelings for South Dakota. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to be like,
because you loved her.
I don't know.
No, I mean, obviously.
Maybe I did. I had to. If I'm still thinking about her, right?
I think
or am I thinking about her because it feels like a betrayal, right? You know what I mean? Like, if
so now we get into attachment.
Yeah, let's get into that because I feel like that's more of how it ended was just so shitty. And what trips me up is like, how can you be so one way?
Yeah.
And then flip the script and be this totally different person.
Yeah.
I don't like that kind of stuff. It makes me uneasy. And then I analyze it. And I'm a consistent person. If I'm nothing else, I'm consistent with my feelings.
So we're going to wrap up then with attachment. So
That's
for
a good
those
idea.
that have not ever heard of attachment, I'm sure they have just because it's super popular on the internet and TikTok. I think you can't turn into anything anymore without people talking about it. Attachment styles or wounds and trauma stuff. I'll start it and then you can chime in where you know. But I became...
Are you starting a new segment?
Yeah, well, not the new episode, just we're going to just kind of talk about attachment and then probably wrap up our episode with this. What do you think?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, and then we can kind of follow up in episode 3 with this. But so attachment theory is basically drove off of, you're born with these lovely people that are the only people you have fundamentally when you're born that says, they hold you, they feed you, they change your diaper. They kind of like have these 3 little nurturing things that they can do. Yeah. Then as time kind of develops and you're a toddler and you need more, if the parent is busy with work or they're like dealing with their own stress and trauma or they got 3 other kids, they really don't have the time to nurture this child anymore who's an infant that needs specific things. Yeah. And they're also attached to the caregiver. And also the part is if like a mother doesn't return back to this child for the needs when they need them for something, this is where the anxious child develops. So if the baby's crying, and their fear is like, she's not coming back, then the mom doesn't return, then the baby has this attachment in that way. Or if the mother hovers too much and provides too much emotional needs, the child becomes more anxious. So then you have the flip side of the avoidant. So there's essentially 4 attachment styles: anxious, avoidant. The middle is the fearful avoidant, which is the combination of the 2.
That's a tough one.
And then secure, which is our goal. We all have attachment styles. We've figured that out theoretically and through psychology study that every one of us have an attachment, but the goal is to try to be more secure throughout life and learn how to nurture your own kind of anxious behaviors or avoidant behaviors and learn them. And then the fearful avoidant that does the combo. So it's kind of hard to just dump it all in one session and explain it, but I want to try to do the shortest wrap up of it. But essentially an anxious will date an avoidant. So essentially we're dating our mother and father, right? Because when you look back generationally, there was an anxious mother and avoidant father. And just using my own family, I can remember like my mom, like being the anxious Nancy growing up, like, oh my God, you can't go in the front yard. There's like stranger danger. She was very much that helicopter mom, always like telling us like, here, let me just tie your shoes. She would do for us. When you're codependent to someone like that, you are going to be a little bit more anxious. Like, oh my God, I can't even tie my shoes. Mom, can you tie my shoes? You become dependent on that. Where my dad was like, tie your fucking shoe. Right? Like he grew up in the mentality of tough love, suck it up, buttercup, you're gonna have to figure it out. kind of thing. And then watching them dynamically grow up, my mom would nag him about his driving. You're going too fast. You need to slow down. Oh my God, turn the radio down. And the more that he heard that nagging and complaining, he would avoid her because to him, he was like, I can never do anything right.
Sure.
I'm never going to be what she needs in a relationship. So this is how it fundamentally starts. And then we watch this as children. And so then we take on these roles. Yeah. So I became an anxious person.
So you could have picked either way though, right?
Well, I am. I'm a fearful avoidant because both of my parents were super inconsistent. And that's the big words here. So for the one is consistency and the other one is betrayal wounds. Okay. Yeah. So fearful avoidance, biggest wounds is betrayal. Oh, okay. And I explain that too. Like little Susie's your best friend and she's telling you oh, you're my best friend. But then you hear her 5 minutes later telling 3 other little girls, you're my best friends. And you're like, that bitch, right? You're betrayed. And if a parent doesn't nurture that wound, you feel betrayed. And then you start to see it over and over again, people betraying you. And you don't know how to interpret that and deal with that wound because mom used to hold you and change you, but now she doesn't nurture these wounds. So you're left with these wounds yourself to figure out. And you'll find out throughout life, people are going to betray you and do stuff like that. And that stuff really hurts. So anyways, back to it. So you have these 3 different attachment styles and innately we learn behavior. So you're either going to pick up on your mom's anxious behaviors or your dad's or have the combination of the 2. And then the biggest thing that I don't like that I wish people would stop doing is grooming their children to date. Because sadly, is if parents are busy and we've all been in different households and we see it as being therapists, is like, mom's super busy, dad's busy, or they don't have a healthy relationship themselves. And so little Johnny, go ahead and go get you a girlfriend. Oh, okay. And you're talking 13, 14 years old, these kids are dating and they don't have the fundamental skills to have dating skills, right? Yeah. And so they're often trauma bonding because they're going to share situational
14-year-olds,
yeah, because they're going to be like, oh, my mom and dad fight all the time, or he might be like, well, my mom stays drunk, or my dad's a drunk, or there's the horror stories we think about our parents as children, even if they're not trauma horror stories, but to us, it's significant, whatever. Yeah. And they're bonding off that. Yeah. Oh, well, I know what that feels like, and I know what that. And so then they're developing a relationship off of similarities of just hurt, right? And then they get together and they love each other and they start to nurture each other's stories and situations. And then it's just a continuum as you see this historically.
Well, you are assuming you're like that all kids are having a bad story to tell, to bond over.
No, but
I'm I don't know anybody who is unscathed though either, you know, in any kind of childhood that they don't have something to be that some worse than others.
And
right?
I
More
hear it all the time when
others.
people sit in the seat and they're like, oh, my childhood was normal. I had a great, and I'm like, no, actually.
Well, when you unpackage it, what does that look like?
I'm not ever to say our parents did shit on purpose, because there's definitely some parents that was trying to do the best they could. I think a lot of them were, generationally looking back, people were having kids. Like my grandparents were having kids at 14 and 15. True. So you got to think by the time their kids were old enough to whatever, they were stressed with work and life, and they couldn't provide 4 or 5, 6 kids with love and nurturing. Yeah. They did the best they could. So anywho. So there's these little 13, 14-year-olds nurturing relationships. And so when you hear these young love stories where they get together in high school and they try to make it, most of them really don't survive, or they just stay in these very insecure relationships that do that runner-chaser dynamic. Right. Because sadly, the avoidant, the more that they're being told they're wrong and shamed and these core wounds that we have to unpack to help them figure out how to heal those, he'll run from the anxious one, and that's where the dynamic starts, the anxious and the...
he or she,
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not just men that are avoiders. There are a lot of women that become...
I'm finding a lot of them,
Well, I'm the combination, so I can do both. So depending on who you're with, if they have more anxious energy, then you might avoid them, right? But if you think of the word fearful avoiding, it's just fearing and avoiding them. So it's just this piece of, I never had consistency. Because either my mother was too anxious or my father was too avoidant or whatever. So I've learned that I have to be like hypervigilant of everyone. And so when you meet people, you're constantly trying to scan who's safe for you, and any slight inconsistency throws you off. So which would say when we're dating, right?
Yeah.
And here's the segue into copper. What happened to me, I think I was secure, but the second that she started doing things where it was like, oh, I can't see you tonight. Yeah. And it started to falter off of normalcy.
Yeah.
These patterns.
Right.
I was like,
well, and your intuition went off.
Oh, absolutely.
Her words weren't matching actions.
But then my anxiety became more prevalent. It wasn't just a normal oh, well, screw you, I'm not going to talk to you. It's like, well, why are you doing that? I started policing her. I started like calling her out. I wanted more conversations. I started to the behaviors, if I pulled them out, we won't have time to do this. The behaviors that an anxious one does, I was doing every single one of them. And even being a therapist and knowing this stuff and knowing that I was secure, it's that ingrained in us. And she just slowly started pulling the cord, which pulled me closer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she knew it. And I think it was like a thrill for her. So I couldn't tell, like, is this narcissistic behavior that she's doing this? You know, like we went a whole last month without seeing each other. And that would drive anyone's anxiety up the wall. But a common sense person would say, walk away, stop talking to them. But I was so like, almost like a drug, right? I need this. Because it's like, are you rejecting me? Or is this like...
Well, and don't you think too, it's like with the, kind of lost my train of thought. It's you see the other side to them. That's what's hard about the avoidant, right? You're like, you know how they can be. And that's what keeps us hooked, you know?
Absolutely.
You see that great side, the soft side, the side that's not defensive or worried and puts the wall down, right? And then as you see the wall go up, it's like, oh, wait, we were walls down.
You romanticize the what was.
Yeah, the what was or what could be. That's what I've been trying not to do with anybody, is like seeing them for who they are right now. Because, you know, even with South Dakota, when she had said, I have avoidant tendencies, I'm working on it, that kind of stuff. I think in my head, I was like, oh, that's okay. You
that's
know,
the therapist, like, damn it.
You're working on
we
it.
Know that.
Of course
it's
you're
like
working on it.
Total red flag.
But it became her first line of defense. The minute something happened, she was just, you know, avoidant and pulled away and, you know, and didn't like it. And there was also another little squabble that she kind of disappeared for a couple of days and came back. And I was like, I thought we broke up. But she was like, no, I was just taking a time out. And it was like 3 days later. Because
you don't want to parent someone and therapize them either, even though we can see, because I've always said, like, I could fix every relationship because I can see the issues. Like, if we just worked on these attachment wounds, we can be the perfect couple. But to get the other person to want to do that is, and it's too much work, and you don't want to do that.
I mean, that's where you get into the fawning over them, right? You know,
Absolutely.
Because you start to be like, well, we could really make this work, you know, and that's probably in my head too with South Dakota of like, we could still make this work if, you know, so I'm just trying not to do any of that because like, I don't want that slippery slope. Or wondering if she's ever coming back, that kind of stuff. You know, to me, it's just been over and it'll stay over. You know,
so if you're curious about your attachment styles, you can go to the Attachment Project. They I use that a lot with patients. Attachmentproject.com. You can take the little quiz. There's tons of them. Some of them are accurate, or some of them are a little whatever. But it will tell you your attachment style. It's really important to kind of, I always tell people that like just find out what it is and find out if your partner has one, because it can fix a lot of dynamics with communication and issues. And when you're meeting people, I know it helped me dating, and I know it's helped you dating, seeing the red flags a lot sooner of like, oh, that's an anxious attacher, that's an avoidant person, and when to pull back.
Knowing what it's going to pull out, you know, like for me, I'm like, well, if you're avoidant, I'm going to, you know, want to be anxious when you pull away, that kind of stuff. And so, and, you know, I did have some practice with that with Cleveland as well, because she was avoidant and she would kind of shut down for, you know, some days at a time. And I'd be like, oh, come back, you know, where I just want to sit on the couch with you and talk, you know, and she's just, you know, too upset or too avoidant and too in her own shell. And trying to work through those things are possible, though. You know what I mean? It really, all of these things are workable, you know, and we're all trying to work back to the center of being secure and in balance, right? And I think it's when distress happens, what is your go-to, you know, and or a slight, if you think somebody's slighting you, you know, does it end up, what does that rejection look like? Do you pull away, or do you say like, you know, can we still talk about this? And
those
I think
trauma wounds.
Those trauma wounds and how we process them today. I mean, my processing skills today are so much different than they were when I was a kid, you know? From just, you know, working through things.
You talk about the emotional maturity that comes in part of this too. And I know I didn't get emotional maturity until like 2 or 3 relationships ago. One specific relationship that really like pushed me to like take some accountability and look at myself. And I think obviously being a therapist myself too has helped that eliminate that, or, illuminate that. But, I say for everyone is the goal ultimately with attachment is to get to that secure piece, right?
Yeah.
And try to, at least now, I would say, I don't know if it's you. When I watch like trash TV, which is our favorite stuff to watch,
Yeah.
I can like spot them out a mile a minute. When I meet people, I'm like, that's an avoidant, that's whatever. It's sort of like Zodiac too. I'm like, that's a Taurus, that's a whatever.
Sure.
And I don't know if that's just something with being a therapist, not to just label people, but you can see people and the way that they behave and interact. So hopefully, I would say some of this is helpful for people to listen in and learn about attachment theory and kind of
I think another good thing too to learn is what are your love languages. That's a hot button topic and a buzzword
100%.
nowadays, but it is still something good to know about yourself, even though it's kind of overused. Of like, what do you is it quality time, gifts, words of affirmation, those kinds of things, and if you can match up that with your partner, or can you give that to your partner?
100%. So I would say we're going to wrap up today ending with attachment, but if you're curious about it, there are some really great followers on YouTube that you can segue into.
Absolutely.
Lots of videos on attachment and as well as taking the attachment quiz to figure out. But we will recap in episode 3, so stay tuned. Today with Olivia. Actually, I'm going by Liv now. So Olivia and Lois show. So
Liv and Loie?
Loie, yeah. I'm eventually going to get that. It's so new to us. But
Liv and Loie.
thanks for
That's
tuning
funny.
in.
Thank
And
you,
we'll see you
guys.
in episode 3.